Ugh, this coffee's bitter. Let's need some ISOSPEED Cream. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You're watching Tennis Bros, and in today's string review, we are going to be reviewing the ISOSPEED Cream. So without further ado, let's get into it. Strings and marketing. This string is a round-shaped co-poly that comes in either a 16L gauge or a 17 gauge. This string only comes in the color of cream, hence the name. For this particular playtest, I used a 1.23mm or a 17 gauge in my head speed MP and strung it at 48 pounds. It is marketed as a string that provides extreme levels of comfort and control. It is meant for big hitters that is looking for an arm-friendly option, not to mention the low-powered response that all big hitters strive for. First, as always, let's talk about spin potential. The spin potential of this string was pretty average, but in a good way. It would make sense as to why it is average. This is a round string, and round strings tend to hold its tension better and is more fine-tuned for flat hitters, like me. They tend to have less spin compared to shaped polys, making the players generate their own spin. It must have been a while since I last played with a round poly because low-key I miss this. I miss being able to truly flatten out my shots and imparting my own spin onto the ball. For serves, I felt more connected with the strings, especially with my slice serves. It felt like I could gauge the strings more, imparting more spin than usual. Although the spin was average, it felt like the ceiling was higher for imparting your own spin. But please be aware to not impart too much spin, as at one point I was hitting the ball from frame to frame and my balls were just flying out. Power. Just as marketed, the strings is for players who like to swing big due to its low power response. Most of my balls were dropping in just at or after the service line, and when I wanted to put more juice onto the balls were going about 3/4 court or even just before the baseline. It is true that the string is marketed to have low power, however, I felt like the energy return of the string was quite high in a poppy sense. My hitting partners say that I get more pop onto my ball, having more of a jolting or penetrating shot that would jump at them. It had felt like the ball would leave my string bed very quickly. In retrospect, this is a great attribute to have for players who are aggressive baseliners. However, the problem that I had with the power was when I was trying to hit a high backhand into the short corner. I needed a little bit more help in the power department, but understandably, those shots should have an arcing shot rather than a flat shot. Ball pocketing. The ball pocketing of this string felt really nice. As stated previously, it seemed as if the ball would leave the string bed rather quickly, meaning that there is very little ball pocketing, which is quite shocking because softer polys tend to have a lot more give onto the ball, or more dwell time. But that is not necessarily a bad thing in this case. Since it has a big energy return, it would make sense for the ball to leave the strings quickly, considering the velocity of the ball for its energy return. Being a 1.23mm string, the strings did bite and grab the ball, so it was fairly easy to manipulate the necessary spin to compensate for late shots if needed. Although some players may experience it differently depending on how maneuverable their racket actually is. Let's talk about comfort. The comfort of the string was extremely high leveled. When striking the ball, it felt like I was hitting with a soft pillow. This is also attributed with playing with a flexible and muted racket as well, but I digress. Even on off-centered shots, these strings felt great. It wasn't as muted as the Hyper G Soft. I could actually tell where I was actually hitting on my string bed. There were some vibrations when hitting off-centered shots, but that didn't diverge from its comfort level. The ball was so addicting to hit with center strings, your body will kinda just naturally gravitate to hitting the center strings. I typically play for about 2 or 2.5 hour sessions of tennis, and my elbow was still feeling fresh. Next, tension maintenance. The tension maintenance of this string was, in my opinion, above par. As previously stated, round polys tend to conserve its tension over a longer period of time. I didn't notice a drop in tension until maybe around hour 5, but it was honestly very negligible. The launch angle was still predictable, so much so that I barely felt like I had to change anything about my swing or imparting more spin when I knowingly knew the tension had dropped. However, in the latter half of its lifetime, I had to move back my mains back into place, and it was so soft that it felt like I was playing with a synthetic. I will say that the string's playability after the tension dropped was still relatively good and can still be played with after hour 6. Notably, probably has to do with being a round poly. As always, I won't be going into too much detail for durability, but this string shocked me. I have been told that this string doesn't last long. It wasn't until maybe around hour 3 where it started to notch, so I initially thought it wasn't going to be that bad. But it slowly crept in on hour 8 and the strings finally popped. It literally popped on the session it reached hour 8. The shocking part is that I'm surprised that it didn't pop anytime sooner. I have been putting so much spin onto my ball and it was still not dying. Anyways, in conjunction of the tension maintenance was much higher when comparing it to the durability. That you can keep on playing even when they start to drop in tension. I will say that there is a possibility that there was some environmental factors that could have played in disrupting the durability. Since I left my bag in my car for a couple of nights, that could also attribute to its durability. Anyways, feel free to skip to the next topic. This is just extra footage of me just hitting.
I guess wrong. Oh no.
In conclusion, this string was a pleasant surprise. It is amazing for those looking for a round poly that is low powered and arm friendly. Its spin potential was average, but it is expected since it is a round poly. Where it is good at is imparting your own spin. Its level of comfort exceeded my expectations, making every ball almost addicting to hit. Just be aware that even though that this is a low powered string, you are still able to overhit. The tension maintenance was average, but its durability was surprisingly strong for a 17 gauge string. Although the graph shows low stats, please be aware that these are objective measurements and don't tell the true story. This is a great string for big hitters, aggressive baseliners that want more pop on the ball, that gives a great option to flatten or impart spin on their own terms, and not to mention a great arm-friendly string. And that concludes the string review. For $8.99, would you try this string? Tell me if you have, or comment down below if you have felt differently about this. But other than that, please like, comment, and subscribe for more TennisBros content, for more vlogs, matches, and reviews and lessons. I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.